And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I'm delighted today to be joined by Anton Umnov. He's the CEO of Helika, and we're going to talk about the fascinating world of Web3 gaming from a data perspective. This is something that not a lot of people get. It's a really interesting space, and frankly, game designers have been thinking about data economies, and how to create compelling gameplay for decades. But the concept of Web3, tokenization, NFTs, shared ownership, aligned incentives, these have changed the way that we think about gaming and have complicated and maybe improved and enhanced the concept of game design in general. Anton and Helika focus specifically on data and data management for gaming, so I'm really excited to get his take. Anton, you're back from Dubai, alive and well. How are you doing today, my friend?
It's great to be here. Hair is still wet. It's been an awesome trip. We've been off rails for a couple of days only. But honestly, it was an amazing trip. It's always great to see crypto perspectives from different parts of the world. We're based in Canada, US, but it's very different sentiment sometimes in Middle East or Asia. So it was an awesome trip, met lots of people, and still following up on the Telegram messages.
Very good. I know the feeling. I'm glad you made it out safe. I'm sure it was a fascinating spectacle. We won't dive into that too much today because we've got a lot of content to cover. But for those people who don't know you, let's get started. Actually, before we do that, this is a LinkedIn Live. So for those people watching in, remember, please do give us your GMs. Let us know where you're coming in from. Anton's based out in Canada. I'm based here in Portugal, but let us know where in the world you're coming in from. And because it's a LinkedIn Live, that means you guys get to do live Q&A. So if you have any questions for Anton, if you have any questions about gaming, any topics you want us to broach, please put those in the comment section below this LinkedIn Live, and we'll try and get to them as we go through or leave a little bit of time at the end. So please do make sure you're spamming the comments. Let us know what you're interested in, and if you're interested in what we're saying. Without further ado, Anton, give us your Web3 origin story. How did you get started in the world of Web3 gaming and data?
Yeah. So I was actually in crypto and analytics, data analytics for a long time. So the first company I've done was a crypto exchange at the time when mining was pretty big in Eastern European region. I actually founded one of the first exchanges, BTC to fiat, back in 2015-16. That didn't really work out that well. Quite frankly, there was a number of lack of regulations at the time. It's still a bit uncertain in many cases. And since then, was always in crypto doing day trading while continuing on the data science product journey across various industries, mostly focusing on fintech. And the premise was always that it's important to have the data analytics tools in any industry, but especially in the industry that is nascent. And that's why I started doing fintech pretty early. And then 2 years ago now, we saw that together with the team that the Web3 is booming. And a similar premise, similar kind of playbook we thought that people would be relying on data to launch the products, to launch different games, to reach different audiences. And that's how Helika was created. And at the time, it was not really obvious at all that Web3 gaming that we're focusing on, it would be the big thing. I think at the time, it was the peak of NFT market, if you guys recall. And DeFi was definitely booming and still is. So we actually made a bet on gaming for a couple of different reasons. One is that game studios, similar to hedge funds, actually, they use data on a daily basis to understand who the audience is, serving different experiences. While NFTs, you only need data at the time of the launch, at the time of the listing, and after that, you don't really need it. It's nice to have. But a game studio, which is interesting, many people think about it, that games are all about fun and graphics, and it is, of course, for consumers. But for the companies, mathematics on the back end, ability to understand the player, to serve different experiences is very important to retain customers in a game. And that's why, together with the team, many of us are coming from the gaming space. Zynga, SciPlay, my co-founder, Luke, who is not on the call obviously now, and then Corey, who's ML expert. Sometimes you talk to Corey, you need Google Translate in a good way, but he's definitely out there. So we have a very complementary skill set, and we founded Helika about a year and a half ago.
Very cool. Shout out Luke, shout out Corey, if you're watching in. And I think it's really interesting what you talked about, the kind of the NFT, maybe the early emergence of NFTs. I don't think they've gone away. I think that they've morphed somewhat. And you're even starting to see NFTs which have embedded gameplay or game logic within them themselves. So the NFT becomes the game. But that's kind of a level of specificity we probably won't cover today. But what I think is interesting, if you look, or at least my experience of the Web3 gaming cycle was, you saw early stage games come out that made use of existing technology. So they would say, right, you can have gameplay and also NFTs, and NFTs represent ownership. And those NFTs would only be able to be traded in a walled garden marketplace. They'd only be usable in that one specific game. You had to connect a crypto wallet and pay in USDT, USDC, whatever it was. And you're thinking, okay, yes, technically I have these NFTs in my wallet, but what do I do with them? What does ownership actually mean? If the game servers are taken down, I'm no better off one way or another. What have we achieved here? We've probably achieved nothing. You then moved on to some of the kind of the early AAA style graphics where NFTs were involved. Avalanche was one of the first to really properly invest in those titles. You saw a little bit of jockeying for investment in some of the bigger games. So DeFi Kingdoms, there was a lot of investment behind them. I think it was Avalanche also spent a lot of their treasury money to poach or to encourage a version of DeFi Kingdoms to move over to Avalanche. If I'm getting that correct, I might need to fact check that afterwards. But I'm pretty sure it was definitely 6 figures, maybe 7 figures was spent on that. And in most cases, it was gameplay plus NFTs and wallet, or it was DeFi farming logic, yield farming logic with a Zelda front end, which is kind of interesting, novel. If you were in Web3 and you had an interest in crypto, I think that would be interesting for you as a Web3er. If you're a gamer looking for a great gaming experience, you're probably thinking, I don't know about this, and crypto feels a bit weird. There's been a lot of backlash. Some of the skin stores that had NFTs, a lot of pushback on that in the early days. Where are we now? As somebody who spends every day talking to gaming companies and trying to help them navigate Web3, where are we at this point in time?
Yeah, totally. I mean, early days were early days, and I think we're changing pretty quickly because Helika is focusing on analytics for the games, game management, so ability to launch a game and then help companies to monetize it. We actually get a pretty early view on the teams that are building right now that might be shipping out the product in 2025, 2026. And definitely it was evident even during the bear market last summer or like a year ago that there are some very strong teams that now start to approach the games purely from the gameplay perspective. They're focusing on the content, they're focusing on consumer. They start acknowledging that games is a B2C product, right? So let's figure out what the players want versus trying to incorporate different kind of tech and infrastructure in the product, right? So all of a sudden, kind of the value of the chains, if you will, start to go down because it's all about consumers at the end of the day. Either they will like it and continue playing, or they will switch to something else. And so a year ago, we already saw that lots of strong teams across the globe, quite frankly, we're based in US, but we think that about 40% of the market, of the teams that will launch a game and will make it very successful is coming from APAC as well as Europe. So I think it's fairly equally distributed. So also on Helika front, it's interesting just because we start to work with the companies about 1 year before the game is launched. Usually people have an alpha product, and then we start seeing from our customers who work with about 27 big studios, we start to see some early numbers on how people like it, retention, engagement, and things like that we track. And it was pretty evident that the new wave of games already capturing much better the consumer insight. And then I think what's happening right now, and it was evident in Dubai, there was lots of teams that came from Japan and Korea, for example, that a lot of traditional gaming companies and or people that are coming from the space, they now see the value of the Web3 gaming. Not only because they're trying to, of course, get more revenues, make it more profitable, but I think Web3 games, what's in it for them is if you release, let's say, NFT pretty early, you can get almost like pre-alpha read how feedback from consumers right away. Is it going to be successful? Is it not? In traditional gaming, as you know, you have the alpha product, you get 1,000 people to play it, you get the feedback, but also Web3 allows you to get this early feedback before investing a lot of money out there. So
it's feedback and investment as well, right? It's to some extent you're seeing people actually put investment down, which for smaller studios it matters. I guess for bigger studios where you've got larger budgets and different P&Ls, probably not. But if you're an independent game developer, the opportunity to have NFTs or tokens and pre-sale or early sale or whatever round you care to call it actually can meaningfully change the funding dynamics for projects.
Yeah, and that's why I think Web3 gaming, even as a founder, and we work with a lot of different studios, it became almost like equalization mechanism where it's not only big kind of conglomerates and AAA shops that are launching the games. You could be 5 people, 7 team. We actually work with a couple guys in Portugal, small teams, did NFT, raise the money. Awesome hub, by the way. Raise the money, and so they're not getting diluted as much on a funding round. So they actually can build a product. Then we usually help them to level up the product before they go for the big raise. So they know that pressure to take money early on from any VCs. They can actually choose, especially now the market is better, who is the right partner for them. So it's equalization mechanism for the Web3 gamings.
Yeah, that works great. And look, we've seen some examples of projects come out where they raised a huge amount of funding up front, and the game eventually either didn't materialize or underwhelmed, and all of that investment was unfortunately, I don't want to say wasted, but it definitely wasn't the return on investment for those people who bought into the idea, into the hype, into the promotion of the game. Probably weren't left with a great feeling, and maybe that put some people off, maybe it didn't.
Yeah, and just like related to, I think like traditional gaming side on the money raise, it was almost like a pharma industry, drug development industry, which is let's raise $500 million. Let's build it for 5 years. And I think what Web3 allows you to do is doing kind of classical iterative tech building, if you will. Get feedback early, improve the product, go back to the market, etc., add new features iteratively, versus just getting all the money, working in your kind of black box for 3 years and then have the magic reveal party. I think it's much more better in this way.
Yeah. Shout out to all the people who've waiting 10 years later for GTA 6 to come out. Oh, GTA 7, sorry. But we had Kieran Warwick from Illuvium on the show a few months back, and he was in that kind of similar place where actually they raised during kind of previous bull market, and they had more money than they could spend. And it was a real challenge. I mean, that sounds like a really horrible problem to have, right? But then also you've got the cyclicality of the value of the tokens that you raise, and genuinely the sentiment against the stock directly impacted his ability to raise funds or to pay for his engineers, which feels like, on the one hand, you've got the benefit of raising ahead of time and not having to necessarily dilute your equity holding. At the same time, you've got the constant tension of making sure that the sentiment remains high, that the token holders are kind of keeping hold and valuing what it is that you're building. Otherwise, if your token goes from 500 to 100, your ability to pay the engineers, like, it disappears overnight. I've had friends with similar projects, right? They've raised capital in a certain token, and just at the wrong moment, that token dropped by 10 times. And you're thinking, treasury management, guys, actually matters here. But at the same time, that's the volatility of the entire business hangs on this. It's tough.
Yeah, it's super tough. And a couple of thoughts on this one. I think like on the Helika side and in previous companies that I've done, we obviously raised multiple times before. I think we actually don't like to raise a lot of money on the Helika side. We like to have kind of proper runway couple of years, because it puts additional pressure. You're not relaxed. You have money, you can plan different things, but you're not relaxed when you raise like $500 million. And I think it actually sparks the motivation. You go quicker, you ship out the products quicker. And we've seen it many times when you sit on a pile of cash. You can, especially if you cannot deploy it. Would be curious to see their slide on the pitch deck on use of funds, the pie chart, how they were pitching it. But so I think there are pros and cons. We are the guys on the Helika front that love to be kind of like understaffed, let's call it by 20%, that intentionally moves us quicker, because it's iterative market. You can have a product roadmap for the next 2 years, but you don't know, right? Like, some elements, you can plan for it, but definitely there's a plan B and C in place. So ability to run this agile company, we're not going to go on the engineering front, but we have different pods and then super agile teams. So you can pivot, you can adjust the narrative, the products as the market evolves. It's very important. And I think on the token front, obviously many game studios are raising based on a token. VCs right now, as you can imagine, interested in a token deals, not necessarily equity deals. It gives them quicker liquidity for good or for bad reasons. I think if you chat to any hedge fund managers or liquid fund managers in crypto, they'll tell you that the alpha trading in the current market is not really working. Like, the fundamentals of the game are not really priced in a token, at least on a game side. It's all about marketing narrative, how community is feeling about the game. It's less so on the fundamentals of the company itself. Right, so that's why naturally you're going to have this volatility. VIX of crypto going to be plus minus 20%. And of course, we also see that many of the single title companies that we work with, most of them, I would say 90% of them, are building publishing business. They're building studios, multiple titles, to make sure that because naturally you will play any game, maybe it's 7 days, maybe it's 30 days, but at some point you will stop playing, right? So to make sure you can maintain your players within your kind of franchise, within your ecosystem, kind of Tencent model. That's why studio publishing is important here.
I mean, that's one of the things that on previous conversations I've flagged early is if you have a token and a marketplace that only exists in your own ecosystem, you've got a problem. When we spoke to Kieran, he said, I understand the interoperability of NFTs and characters thing, but at the moment we're just trying to make characters that can go across different zones or different eras of gameplay. So there's an incentive for you to hold the NFT, or if you don't have it, you can buy one and play when you get to the next evolution. You don't pay for the game, but you pay for the content, and that becomes interesting. When you get to the studio perspective, you've got multiple games. You can play around with the utility of those NFTs. You can play around with where those skins can get used. A hammer in one game can become a chicken in another if you want it to be. You just have to have the visibility and the understanding to make those links. The why you do it is retention, like you described, right? It's making sure that you've got the gamers held on the attention of your games for as long as possible. You create the incentivization for them, because if they hold these things, good things happen. It could be a token drop, it could be an airdrop, it could be additional content, it could be unlocks, it could be loot boxes. The fun thing about gaming is there's so many different media or forms of reward that you can create based on the game and the ecosystem. It's very different when you're in fintech, right? The reward is basically money or nothing.
No, exactly. Yeah. And I think even Helika, now, friend, we effectively became a publisher, if you will. That's the way I would describe us, without owning any IP. So we don't build the content, we don't build the games. But effectively, when you think what we're doing is we have Helika Accelerate working with different younger studios. We have the whole product stack. So we're also deploying the same model because we recognize that many games became studios already. So you have to be able to support it at scale. And of course, like in terms of challenges of building games in Web3, kind of hearing it from customers firsthand, I think customers are very confused. I mean, there's so many chains, right? L1s, L2s, L3s. In Denver, I think somebody mentioned on the panel, and people talked about it for like 40 minutes about L4s. It's like, all right.
Are we there already?
Yeah. So imagine I'm a dev guy I'm a gaming guy coming from Sega. I don't know, building a game, and you're getting bombarded by all of those chains. Obviously, there are different technological advantages for some of them, but they're very confused, and that's why we're actually doing a lot of stuff to help our customers to select specific chain, to give them recommendations, and then work with the chains directly as well. Because on the chain side, as you can imagine, that's the most probably competitive category right now in the Web3. I mean, how do you differentiate? Everything those chains are interested in right now is to be able to onboard as many, not just developers, not just the games or other projects, but also to make sure that they're solid, to make sure that people will continue to play the game and it will not kind of level off after
wallets, users, transactions. I mean, the 2 years ago version of this was probably who's going to pay me the largest grant, who's going to fund me the most to build on their chain, which I don't think has gone away. I don't think that will ever go away, right? Development shops need funding. It is expensive to build a game. You spend a year to 2 years building it, and then later on you deploy it. So cash and access to funding is critical.
It's critical, and I think as well that because teams need incentive, team need the long-term reassurance, not only about the money. That if I go to specific chain, I'm going to get support. It's kind of like almost like loyalty play, because some people raise $10 million, they don't need $300,000 for like hyper casual game. But I think also what developers are concerned about is how much support am I going to get from a chain. Sometimes you go.
And by that, do you mean technical support, or do you mean marketing and visibility,
marketing, client success support, right? So we've seen it very often in tech space. There's a sales guy, he sells you the product. As soon as it's signed, you never see him again. And I think there's sentiment right now about some of the chains. And that's why I think from the kind of dev relationship, some of the chains will be winning, and they're already winning and attracting a lot of top studios, because people feel connected. People feel you can talk to somebody and there's support. Because many things we just don't know, right? All of us, including on the Helika side, we need to figure out it together. So I think that's very important as well for the studios, what they're looking for.
Yeah, Web3 is still a people business, whether we like it or not. And
I mean,
that's a nice thing up to a point. If you're a people person, or if you've got a team that's very good at people and interaction and customer service, that's a differentiator for you. If you've got an introverted, dark room style, hardcore core engineering team that just love building the core engineering and just saying, look, if you don't understand it, it's not for you. I can name a couple of chains that are a little bit like that. Incredible technology. But your technology is only going to really see fruition and mass adoption if people are actually using it. And like you said, a lot of these chains are complicated. If you're starting to use rollups, that becomes a little bit more complicated than just vanilla smart contract deployment. If you're starting to use zero knowledge, that's an entirely different way of programming, or not entirely different. You can program with TypeScript language if you want to, but it's more a case of thinking about the circuits and thinking about how you generate proofs and verification, how the latency in that process affects gameplay. These are all things that just require a little bit of help. And if you've never done it before, and there's no patterns or no designs or no tutorials for it that are 30-second easy to understand, you need help.
No, totally agree. And I think the advantage on our side, because we work with pretty much all the chains, we're chain agnostic company. So in this way, we've been able to get the feedback from the game studios that start working on a chain, and we got a lot of technical knowledge on the back end ourselves. What are the pros and cons of different chains? We actually work with a lot of our customers, because many of them come in, they don't really know yet or care which chain to work with. Sometimes it's even multi-chain approach for them. It's like
they don't care. It's not that they don't know. It's that it needs to be a token.
As long as it's feasible, tech feasible for your product, that they find at the end of the day, right? It's like if you watch Netflix, like, do you really know if Netflix runs on AWS or GCP? You don't, right? And so this is just kind of highlighting the early stages of our industry, where kind of back-end companies, which are great teams, by the way, right? Great teams, great companies. But I think the value of them will diminish over time, and it will be about consumers, players, DeFi users, etc. It's all about consumer market.
Yeah, I spoke with some guys at Gamescom last year, and some of the propositions from the SaaS guys, and it might be the same for Helika. I'm interested to know from your perspective. They will deliberately mint to two chains just for redundancy. In the same way as you have redundancy in your cloud setup, they have redundancy in their token setup. Thursdays and Sunday mornings, Solana doesn't work, so you need a plan B. You need something else.
Solana does work. I mean, so Solana does work because of the spikes in a good way, right? But I was gonna say also depending on the gameplay, because you can have different use cases depending on the game. Like Battle Pass might be one thing, and then in-app purchase is another one. So it depends what kind of game genre is it, and things like that. So, but I think there's definitely room, and we're seeing it firsthand, for the multi-chain approach. Not only about hedging. Somebody might be down, which is also important, but also because the games are getting more complex, the games start to introduce various DeFi products inside the game, and you need different use cases for that. And I think also what's interesting about the gaming side, also for your audience who is listening. So we're not only talking about the games. It's important to understand that in Web3, the gateway for adoption in most cases comes from the games. Right, so the way we analyze many traffic and the flow. If I'm just interested in if I'm a person, chances are I played some kind of game, Candy Crush, whatever that might be, in the last couple of years. So usually most people enter Web3 through the gaming. Inside the games, they start to get acquainted by various DeFi simple products, and only then they switch to kind of DeFi and other elements as well. Right, obviously DeFi is a big segment, but it's very niche. It's very few people with a high LTV, but the mass market usually comes through gaming. That's why I like to say that gaming equals to Web3. It's a gateway to Web3. So we're not only talking about the gaming here, but also overall Web3 ecosystem and how it will evolve.
100%. I mean, if you look at, just to pick an example, what Sweatcoin did for the Near ecosystem, that was their Pokemon Go moment.
Yeah.
Right. When we had a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, the move to earn movement, and the token economics of that particular proposition is challenged. But that was the 30 million users, 30 million wallets moment for Near, which was, we've got a proposition here that's different, that's interesting, people want to check it out. Maybe it's worth something, maybe it's not. And then suddenly ridiculous levels of adoption. Now, where they are now, I haven't followed up, but that was an incredible moment for them. It could be the same if you create a AAA game that's got really interesting usage, or if you create the crypto Candy Crush, providing you can get the UX working well, that's an industry, that's a segment that people love. And so I'm with you.
Yeah, and I think also like when we're kind of like operating as well in this bubble, if you will. But you also need to remember there is some companies that have completely separate ecosystems, like for example Telegram and Ton network. And I think there are some big players that are coming in the space. I actually spend a lot of time in Dubai with Ton. It's very, very relatively closed ecosystem, and I think the business model and user acquisition for the games and kind of traditional methods might be changing, because like Telegram, for example, US is geofenced. So if somebody listening from US here, they might not see, but Telegram launched the wallet. There is exchange. It's all embedded. You can launch games now on Telegram one click. And so what's in it for the studios, just as an example, and I'm not like Telegram advocate, I think it's like different business model.
We're going all around the houses with this. None of us here are chain maximalists. You've said you're multi-chain. I work for certain projects, but I want everybody to win, or at least I want to learn from what everybody's doing, because that's how we get better.
It's just something to be aware of, right? But like everyone concerned about, can I get players in my game? Well, think about Telegram. You launch a game there. It's 900 million monthly active users, like an actual number. So even if 1% will try, and you don't spend any money on UA, on user acquisition. So it's literally for free. And the way how some of those super apps are designed, virality is there. You can share it to your friend, you can do this. So I think the business model of like traditional paid advertising, attribution and things like that might be evolving slowly. Like you don't need to necessarily run the ads now on Google and things like that. And obviously there are challenges with Apple Store and other things that we're all aware of. That's why other players coming in that might disrupt kind of how people are launching the game and how they're monetizing it in the future as well. So something to be aware of.
Yeah, it's interesting, the ability to have crypto on and off ramps adjacent to those games where there is a financialization element. I mean, at some point you might find that you've got embedded tax management applications in app as well, right? Because that's a real thing. If you're actually getting capital gains from playing a game, or if you're actually getting assets that will increase in value, or if you're depending on your jurisdiction where you live, these are real challenges. And that's not necessarily something that a 6-year-old will think of, but it's something that the parents of the 6-year-old will think of. And the easier you make it, the easier that you can make the UX, you can make it seamless, just make it all work, and capture the tax at the point of at the point of redemption, whatever else it is. These are things that we're going to get to in the course of time. I'm conscious. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say like it's also interesting to see what kind of genres of games are being more successful than others. And I think there's obviously some kind of legacy companies or games that were launched early on, but definitely trading card games or shooters as well. That's kind of like dominating the space right now. Those companies are raising at scale, and trading cards makes sense, right? It's like I used to play Magic the Gathering a bit. It should be NFT, right? Like it just kind of makes sense. Or shooting games. There was a guy who bought a couple of years ago. I used to be semi-pro in CS back in the days, but there was a guy a couple of years ago, forgot his name, who bought some AK-47 for like $500,000 or something. I mean, he should own it, right? In some capacity.
Yep. It's mad. And if it's worth that much in that game, okay. And again, back to the point before, if you're spending that much on a skin or on an asset, and it's usable in that particular version of the game, and maybe the game gets sunset, or maybe you get to bring it back in future versions of the game. That's kind of cool. You've got continuity there. But for game cycles, like FIFA, for example, I was quite big into FIFA and Ultimate Team, and so you'd spend time and effort building up these teams. You trade. I didn't usually spend a lot of money, but I spent a lot of time trading and sort of building up the trading side. So if I'd spent as much time trading crypto, I probably would have retired by now, which is stupid. But football and that.
You would be coming to pick me up on a private chopper.
Something like that.
Go for a beer,
And imagine, right? So, but FIFA don't want you, or EA Sports don't want you to keep that team forever, because you've now suddenly got the best team in the game, and there's no incentive for you to keep playing or keep trading or keeping. If you invest in packs or whatever else it is, you've got no investment to continue playing the game next. So they want the cycles to happen where you kind of invest a huge amount, get to a certain level, and then drop, and then you start again, and then drop, and you start again. That's I think one of the challenges that game developers have to think about with NFTs and these assets, because just because you own them in your wallet and you can point to it saying, look, here's the JPEG of the AK-47 I had from 5 years ago. Isn't that cool? I paid $500,000 for that. And I turn around and say, you're an idiot. or cool story, bro, but what do I do with this? How do this is the weirdest of all flexes.
Well,
If there should be some utility. My point is there should be the optionality of utility behind it. I understand that if you have a CryptoPunk that doesn't have any more utility than the AK-47 that we're talking about in this theoretical example, but in some circles that has artistic value or sentimental value and so on. And maybe it's okay, maybe it's enough for that AK-47 to have sentimental value in it to exist in your wallet in perpetuity. But I think we can do better.
We can do better for sure. And I think I actually like slightly changing my opinion slowly about some of the kind of JPEGs, NFTs, as you call it. I think I start to understand more why people do it. I think it's also about the community, right? You go to some of the events globally. It's more so, here's my club, here's my people. I went to a Azuki event in New York a couple of weeks ago. I mean, you definitely see community is there, and they're just catching up. It's like, hey, how's your baby? How's the party and the pizza? It's literally a community thing, right? Semi-exclusive, but
that's a golf club membership. At that point, the NFT is analogous to being a member of a yacht club or a golf club or
exactly.
whatever club you like, and the membership model or the membership value of that is a thing. With the AK-47, you don't get a membership to a club.
You don't get a membership, so games is very different, and we can definitely do better. And we're already seeing that many teams start to experiment with different models, how to use blockchain, how to use NFTs and coins in a different way. Like you can own. If you can own part of a character in the game, right? Like you can. It's not only about access to like premium features. There's battle passes and things like that, and different ability to unlock more premium DeFi products to get more stake. Like there's different elements, but it's kind of V1 stage for sure. I mean,
you can have patronage. This is a really interesting concept for me, right? If you think about back in the Roman times, 2,000 years ago, patrons would have a stadium of gladiators.
Yeah,
right? And they would pay money for that gladiator's upkeep and training and weapons and food and whatever else. The modern day version of that is you have a DAO, and a DAO is sponsoring a player's entrance into a tournament. And if that player wins a tournament or gets particular rewards, that value is shared out amongst the DAO, or is reinvested and so on. And there's governance behind that. It's kind of the modern day version of gladiator patronage, just without all of the bloodshed.
Yeah, it's kind of the whole notion of tokenization. Kind of sounds a bit weird when you talk about characters or people, but it's an idea that if I want to bet on you, for example, can I get a couple tokens because I'm super bullish on what you're doing, right? It's the same thing, same characters in the game. And there used to be game like device one Tamagotchi in like late 90s. I don't know if you remember. It was like Japanese game on device, bring up your pet. I think it was like V0 of what we're doing right now on NFTs, but it's the same idea. And if you look at some of the numbers on that, I think Japanese game, I'm pretty sure it was like retention was through the roof. Like people were breaking up because I need to feed my pet and things like that. Yeah.
I remember it well. I mean, there was news story after news story of children delinquents who didn't go to school because they were too busy caring for their pets. Kind of this is pre-texting and driving, right? So people would, the thing was going off in their pocket and they drove into a tree.
Yeah,
and people probably died. And that's very sad.
Figure out who's actually a bad guy because you didn't feed your pet or something. It's like Anyway,
it's just as well they weren't connected online, because at that point you can identify people's kind of social personas and how negligent they are, or how diligent they are, or how addicted they are to different concepts, and then you can create microsegments. As a marketeer, that's already fascinating to me, but a little creepy.
That should have been an ultimate dating test for your partner. I can imagine not on a sentiment.
These are all good business ideas, Anton. I think you've got plenty of opportunities to spin out from Helika or other things that could spin out of this conversation. Speaking of which, we've mentioned Helika about 17 times already without actually doing any sort of deep dive into what is Helika, what is the proposition, what are you typically helping projects with. So while we're there, and under the topic of kind of the importance of data for Web3 games, talk to us a little bit about Helika and how the platform, or how you guys as a team are supporting games that are being developed now.
Yeah, totally. So when you think about Helika, you can think if a studio is building the game, we're doing everything else. That's kind of TLDR. But what we're doing specifically is we have a number of analytical products. We have 4 different product suites. So we have analytics to understand who your players are, what else are they doing, how retention is looking, all the key metrics in the game, everything related to the on-chain behavior in the game, but also we doing everything related to the Web2 behavior as well, because some people just play a game. Sometimes they engage with NFT, sometimes they don't. And so ability to merge, if you will, the behavior, not only tracking on-chain and off-chain into one persona, is very important. And so we able to, on the analytics side, we call it foundational analytics, because other things are way more sophisticated. It's foundational because you want to know who's your golden cohort, who is liking your game, what else are they doing, how their LTV is looking, getting all the information that can help you to predict how the game will be performing, what kind of new features people might be looking for, and the strength of your community overall. So analytic piece includes Web2 data, Web3, and social media. So we're tracking community sentiment on Discord, Twitter, etc., because it's predictive indicator how well your game will be, how engaged players will be in your game. So there's analytical piece. And then when usually we start engaging with the teams when they have alpha. So they launch alpha, people play the game. Let's figure out, do they like it or not? So that's analytics, right? And then when teams are ready to start driving user acquisition, we have the full ad tech suite that allows you to drive the traffic through referral links, UTMs, attributions. If you're working with 5 different KOLs or influencers in the space, we can actually comment how much value each influencer brings to the table, because we can see the traffic, and then we can see what people are doing inside the game, how their LTV is looking, because analytics and ad tech piece is connected. And then once the game is fully launched, we have what we call game management tools. So ability to understand how different features are performing in a game, ability to offer different experiences, different features depending who the player is, essentially allowing you to increase the LTV of the customer from $5, let's call it, to 25, whatever the number would be. And that really drives engagement and retention up. So kind of the short version is, so we help the games to make sure that their alpha beta products are great, and then we're improving it with them. And then we'll help to bring the players to the game, and then making sure that the players will stay and they love the game as well. So we have a number of products like this. And now what we're really focusing on, how do we take those 4 pillars, because we have a lot of data on players and in terms of their on-chain behavior and other data sources. How do you take this data set and how do you do it programmatically? So we're building a number of AI models that should help PMs at the studio level to make decisions programmatically. So right now the way it works is, you PM of the game, you look at the numbers, let's see what part of the game is resonating and not, and then they make manual changes essentially to config files on the back end to make sure game is adjusted. But there's a way to do it programmatically through AI, Helika AI we call it, and that's what we're currently focusing on.
Very cool. So you're actually adapting the game based on the more profitable or the more engaging storylines or game flows based on data that's happening in real time.
Yeah, exactly. Like practical example might be it's a bit of exaggeration, but imagine you're playing like slot machine games. So we know that if you lose 5 times, on the 5th time you screw it, they're gonna go to the bar. But if we let you win to some extent on the 6 times, we know you're gonna be playing another 10 hours. And so depending on your background, depending what you've done today, we have this analytics on the back end. So PMs can programmatically make those changes and give you maybe like a couple more points when you lose on a couple more credits. Or in more sophisticated cases, let's say you play some kind of shooting game and you're more sniper guy, I'm more AK-47 guy, and you want to pick up the ammo, the rifle from somebody who just passed away. Because you're sniper guy, why don't we give you more snipers? Because you will be playing longer, right? So ability to serve different experiences by understanding who the player is, the segment, is what we're focusing on today.
That's interesting. And again, that's the sort of stuff that in traditional Web2 games, you can completely customize, right? If it's online, if it's server-based, the drop rates for certain cards, the drop rates for certain items, and as you described, to some extent, the storylines or the side quests or what content gets served next. Exactly. Is all customizable, right? You can completely decide exactly what happens there.
Yeah, and just to add to this one quickly, like in practical terms, right? Like what most of the companies very interested in, everyone distributes some kind of gems, points, rewards, tokens, whatever the case is. So the classical, the most popular use case is, should I give to Anthony 10 points and to Anton 1, or another way around? So you can customize it based on your behavior, not only in game, but also on social media, the retweets and things like that. So that's how people are using it on the back end today to make sure players are more engaged.
And so at the moment, are you combining a mix of, there's game data. Are you also pulling from social media and then on-chain data as well? Because that's an interesting one.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's 3 different data sources. We actually spent like first, I would call it like half a year making sure that the backend infrastructure is set up, because it sounds simple to combine all of those 3 elements together at the player level, but it's actually a lot of work. Think how many chains you have, how many data sources you have. Game telemetry is different, right? So we actually standardize this process, and then we start to build different products on top. Well, now that you know that, how do you drive the right people to the game, and how do you retain them? And so analytics for us, all of those dashboards, it's really the way to measure the success of different products. Like if you make some event changes, let's go back to the dashboards. But our core angle is the game management products, campaign managers, and you're just tracking results through analytics as well.
Got it. And I want to deep dive on this bit, because this is the bit that's really interesting to me, is the modeling for on-chain games, or the on-chain aspect, right? Because we talked about the kind of the game flows, the game logic itself. The developer knows pretty much what they are. They know what's going to happen there, and it's you can optimize in that space. When you look at social media, you can look at sentiment analysis, you can look at hashtags, you can look at click-throughs or some sort of cookie-based activity, and that's kind of interesting. When you look at on-chain data, it gets kind of interesting, right? Because at a basic level, you've just got wallets and staking and unstaking of NFTs, or loading and unloading of NFTs. So you've got basic on-chain activity. But if you look at the wallet, and depending on what permissions you have, and this can get into some interesting areas from a privacy or data protection perspective, but essentially back in the day, when Mark Zuckerberg wanted you to connect your MetaMask wallet to your Facebook account so you could put an NFT as your profile picture, he's basically getting your entire crypto history and every transaction related to your wallet, your holdings on that particular account at any one time. And that's very, very interesting information from how much crypto does this person hold? What other games, what other propositions are they connecting their wallet to? Where are they regularly sending money back and forth to? What does their peer group look like theoretically? Who are they trading with? Who are they sending assets to? It kind of gets interesting. How does that get brought into the gaming side?
Yeah. I mean, it's very interesting. And first of all, the comment about data privacy, obviously, it's I'm data science data guy for many years. Obviously, it's very important for us. And in terms of just purely like on-chain activity, like the ethos of the blockchain is transparency, right? So I think it's like by design, about the player, what other games they play. Which, by the way, this information was never available in traditional gaming side. You look at Zynga, you look at Ubisoft, they kind of cooking within their own bubbles, within there's competitive benchmarks, but you don't really know what else are they doing outside of your 4 walls. And I think the reason why modeling is and predictive analytics and things like that much more powerful in the Web3 gaming is because you actually know the whole history of the player, right? So which are the NFTs they hold, which are the games they play, what about their DeFi appetite? And so all of a sudden, not necessarily the size and the data size is massive, right? And so you can create various attributes, which we're doing, and various profiles of people. And so when you try to figure out any predictive models, we actually find they much more accurate, right? And AI that we're focusing on, because we're tracking pretty much all the chains, all of the players. Even if our model is 5% better than the studio is doing today, 5% is a lot of money for the studio, right? If you think about it, the terms. But obviously, like to your point, connecting wallets to the kind of real time, profiles of people, it's definitely challenging. So we're doing it today in a couple different ways. So for any given studio, we would match in-game data with their wallets within the game's universe, because they have this information. But obviously there is it's challenging to do it. It's more correlational, more kind of stats-based approach. You don't have one-to-one, but I think even ability to run the correlations, like how your social profile is looking, which are the games they play. What we'll find at the end of the day that those models are way more accurate in terms of modeling versus just if you rely only on Web 2 or Web 3 data.
For sure. And we got a comment here from Richard that kind of alluding to the fact that NFTs and wallets are the new cookies. And I fully agree, right? The opportunity, well, I think it depends, because in certain models, you've got the opportunity to use cookies and Web 3 data.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. With the exception that because games becoming highly customized, people actually not that they want it, but they would like to have different experiences in a game. So it's kind of like personalized ads, except ads you don't really get any value. People play the games because they love playing it. Like, you know what I mean? Nobody's forcing you to play it, so they actually like it. They don't mind it just because the game is much more fun for them.
And let's talk a little bit more expansively now, because I think the modeling part, when you look at the in-game economy, we talked about this, is not completely linear, but it's a well-trodden path. Are you having conversations with games when they talk about NFTs and maybe launching their own game tokens around how do we interpret, how do we make decisions based on how our assets are performing on an open market? Because I think that's the point at which a number of game studios that I've spoken to started to get a little bit scared, is saying, look, when we can control it, it's all fine and dandy, and when we can manage the flows and the drop rates and what that means in terms of people making in-game purchases, all well and good, right? When the crypto community takes and runs with our thing and suddenly we have $1 billion, or the other way around, when the FUD kicks in and suddenly our game goes to zero because somebody just decided to have a bit of influence and takes all of our gamers with them, that's less fun.
That's less fun. And like, first of all, I just want to kind of call out that everyone say that they're tokenomics expert. Nobody was able to figure it out. Big VCs, experts. So just if somebody tells you they're an expert, just forget about it. Take the red marker, scratch this person off. So just want to acknowledge it. So we don't know. We're experimenting. And so definitely, like, we just to give you some view, right? So we have a program called Helika Accelerate. It's effectively kind of like hands-on. I won't call it incubator, because our devs work with devs to make product better. But number one question, and usually it's the teams who come in, they have the alpha product, tokenomics, game economy is not there yet, so we're working with them on this. And so that would be number one question, right? What happens if it kind of goes to zero? And that's why I think many projects now focusing on definitely on utility, but also being able to figure out kind of deflationary mechanism as well. Like, if something goes down, how can you do buybacks? How can you kind of support the ecosystem as well? And that's why it's important on a game studio level to figure out how their token is distributed, right? So we do understand, of course, that the teams have to raise money on a token, and teams need to be incentivized. But if community gets like 10% of the token, any kind of whale, if you will, any holder that holds it can come in and just do whatever they want to do, right? And there's market makers and other things that running in the background, people not aware of that. But I think I don't know what the answer is. I think people were not able to figure out the right tokenomics model. Nobody was able to do it yet. So you kind of have to what I'm trying to say, build in the mechanisms for your tokenomics, for your game economy, that will allow you to support the token and community if something does not go right, because you don't really know right away. So I would be focusing
like some sort of treasury is probably the wrong word, but some sort of backstop fund where the game is still able to continue, or the community is insured against and we have on-chain insurance products today. It's probably unusual in a gaming context. Treasury management is a hedge to some extent. It's saying, look, we're not going to have all of our treasury in the gaming token, because if the gaming token goes to zero, then we've got no treasury left. So let's put some of it in stables, let's put some of it in Bitcoin, let's put some of it in something else.
Yeah, and even doing buyback, like reducing, I mean, you cannot obviously directly reduce supply, but I think even distributing points through play to airdrops campaigns and things like that, giving incentive to people to try. And many game studios now, I mean, not many, some game studios now have actually multiple tokens and multiple use cases too, right? Which is kind of interesting, and interesting. Yeah, let's stop there.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm interested when you start seeing cryptos collaborating with games. So when you start seeing rewards in meme coins for gameplay. Now, it's not necessarily a logical. Well, it's not somewhere where people would necessarily expect to see a collab, but at the same time, if the digital asset aspect of gaming is about financialization, and if meme coins have value and people want to start looking at acquisition of people on those tokens and start, acquiring customers through games, people who like memes may be gamers. People who like games may be memers. I don't know. That's a thing. Those crossovers in terms of being able to say, look, I can confirm from a wallet that I can track on chain that this person's a holder, therefore I'm going to airdrop them certain tokens, or this person has very clearly received certain rewards from a game. Any wallet has one of these NFTs in it. gets an immediate whatever it could be, that becomes really powerful. And the settlement and reconciliation of that, it's instant, which is really, really powerful.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like in the fixed income market, I think it's 2 days in Europe, 3 days in Canada, US. You know what I mean? Here it's instant, and also like ability to target people. Like if I'm living in a house, I want to get a flyer from the place that I like, and same here, right? If I'm interested in this genre of the game, I don't want to get like spammed with a whole bunch of things. So I think. And we do it today at Helika as well, so you're able to see what other games and things people might be interested in based on their wallet LTV. And I think it's interesting, but in terms of distribution mechanism, I think it will be evolving pretty quickly. I mean, I have a couple of wallets, and I'm sure like last year you've seen you're getting dropped something every time. I was like, what the hell is this thing? But it's became spammy, right? So it's, yeah.
And that's something I don't think is going to go away. But I think what it does highlight is the speed at which this space is moving. The opportunity for innovation is still there. So you can still get breakout moments or incredible moments. I mean, again, not to dwell on Sweatcoin too much, but that was one of those moments where we created a mechanism and tokenomics that people thought, oh my God, this is incredible. Let's jump on this and see how it goes. Same happened in games. I remember some of I can't remember, I think it was an early Solana game where, again, you got to level up particular characters in the game because of how many steps you took. And there I was sat on the couch, bouncing my phone up and down and leveling up my character, watching TV, not taking a single step and gaming the whole thing. They updated their accelerometer software after that, I think, and so I lost interest in the game because I couldn't game it anymore. Well, but this is where we are.
Well, and that's a good point, because I think like where we're seeing actually in APAC in particular, in Asia, right? Like, so there is the beauty of the game is that you can actually, if you do it in the right way, change people's behavior. Think about educational games, think about Duolingo and other things. And I think this is kind of the use cases of the games or gamified experience that we now start to see more and more, because many games or apps or dApps where they're evolving is something like Duolingo, right? Like the language app. It's not a game per se, but you can easily use the same mechanism as the game does, live ops and things like that. And I think the next evolution outside of the gaming, as we call it today, would be gamified experience on apps like Stepan and Stepan 2.0s that might be coming down the road.
Nice. I like that. We've got a couple of minutes left, and there were a couple of interesting questions in the comments, so I'm going to jump in on some of those. One which actually was one I was going to ask next, but we'll jump in. MG came in with a comment. What are the key success factors to create traction for a game? The way this is phrased, I'll probably simplify it, but to dominate more than 10 million users. Let's just call it to have a successful game launch. What are some of the key success factors that you look for in terms of maybe specifically data management or the setup as they go from alpha into preparing for launch? What are the kind of the key things, if you could summarize them?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because let's acknowledge that game industry is very hard. Startup industry is hard, game particularly hard, because it's many games would not make it, right? So what are we looking at? So I think many teams, you want to make sure that because on the Helika front, we actually don't work, and saying it in a humble way, with all the game studios. We want to make sure that the teams that work with will succeed. That's kind of our business model. And so we're definitely looking early at the numbers. If somebody is only focusing on the lowest CAC, lowest cost of acquisition, that is kind of like a yellow flag and red flag, just because you can buy a player for $1,000, but as long as the person spent more than $1,000 in your game, you're good, right? So if you need to look at the ratio between LTV engagement and CAC, and once you're able to balance it off, then you only go for the user acquisition to buy, for example, to advertise to more players, like the person is asking here. So I think many people make mistakes. They're only focusing on how do I bring 1,000 people to 100 million people to the game, but forgetting about the second piece. And if you're not able to solve the leaky bucket, that's the wrong strategy.
Business case still matters. No matter how good the tech is, business case still matters. Utility still matters.
That's right. Yeah,
I like that. And final question here, just before we close, Mohammed's here, sort of talking about with the gaming industry moving at a fast pace and large amounts of data piling up. What do you believe are the technologies that may have a significant impact on, let's call it, improving game design, improving game quality, or what are some of the technologies that you're looking at right now that you think are particularly interesting to embed?
Yeah. So it has to be good question, Mohammed. It has to be MLAI. I mean, that's what we're doing. So instead of people looking at a whole bunch of dashboards and things like that, we actually have, we call it, we're building it. It's not there fully yet. but game recommendation engine. So PM gets specific pop-up to say, hey, you have opportunity right now in this part of the game to improve engagement by 1.2%. Press go, and then on the back end it shuffles all of the configs, etc. Right? So that's the only way to do that in terms of the data management. If the question more about like the cost and things like that, that's why it's important to set up the infrastructure where, you know, as a company, analytics company, there's a whole bunch of them, right? That you only focus on-chain activity, and then game studio doing in-game, and then somebody else is tracking social media. So that's a nightmare, right? Imagine, because on-chain activity of a game might be only 20% of behaviors. So that's why we merge everything together in one spot, so our customers can focus on building the games that they love, and we kind of the plumbers in a good way in the back servicing them.
There we go. I mean, that's what we need, right? We're all ultimately infrastructure builders in this space to some extent, and the more we can get to the compelling front end and obfuscate the less sexy, slightly complicated, and definitely increasingly complex back end, the better. And so let's focus on building great games that people love. Let's add utility, or let's add features and functionality that make the gaming experience better, more rewarding, more compelling, more interoperable. And it sounds like you guys are having a lot of fun doing it. So
yeah, it's Anton, a fun industry outside of all the business, you know, it's super fun to do it. So you guys should come and check it out. Yeah.
Exactly. So Anton, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Really interesting insight into gaming. Anyone listening in knows this is a topic that I love to talk about regularly. So, but seeing it from the data angle, seeing it from the kind of planning, data management, customer acquisition, and customer lifetime value, or LTV type of side, really interesting. So thank you so much for joining us. Hope your hair dries soon enough. Hope you get kind of back to normal humidity levels, and stay safe out there.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for the invite. Chat soon.
Cheers.